What is up, everybody? Joe Everest, the fence expert. I just wrapped up a pretty amazing interview with Tony Thornton. He's the executive director of the American Fence Association. Now, the live interview lasted quite a while, so we've actually cut it into three pieces. This section of the interview answers the question, what is the American Fence Association, and why is it important to me, a fencing contractor? What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another live interview here on the Joe Everest, the fence expert channel. Today, we've got Tony Thornton, who's the executive director of the American Fence Association. Tony, welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Of course. I appreciate your time. I know a guy like you always has about 100 irons in the fire.
Well, if it comes to talking fence, I'm all in.
Well, Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit, what is the executive director of the American Fence Association?
You know, I tell everybody I'm just Tony. You know, I'm a fence guy. You can put any title you want to on an individual, but when it comes right down to it, I'm just a fence guy.
Sure.
As I've told you, Joe, my story, I was cutting grass one day and 15 years of age, and 2 houses down the street, Mr. Jerry Jeffcoat Fence Company, pulled up and he said, "Hey, I done talked to your dad. Get in the truck. We're going to build a fence today." And that's how it happened. I dug my first hole that day, became a PhD, as we all call ourselves. And, it's just been part of my life from then on. And it's been a good run. It sure has.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the story, because I think there's a lot of guys and gals out there with similar stories. You know, mine is in the first day of summer in middle school. My dad wakes me up and says, "Hey, guess what? We're going to go build some fence today." Well, I was going to go play with my friends. And he said, "Oh, don't worry. Your friends will be here after work. I promise."
There you go. Yeah, it's funny how we all get introduced to it, but it's truly been a blessing to me and my family.
Absolutely.
And part of it from owning my own company, working for a company, owning my own company, distribution and wholesale, and also on the manufacturing side before I became executive director some 7 years ago. So, again, kind of bringing a little piece of every part of that into the industry, office here, it's been a huge asset to our organization.
Absolutely. I can see that. I mean, you having experience really in each and every phase of the supply line and of the actual installation side of the fences, you could probably have a well-rounded conversation with almost anyone in the industry.
I try to. That's what I tell everybody. I'm a PR guy. That's what I do. I try to promote our organization and what we're trying to do for the industry.
So for a new member, what can a new member expect to see ongoing from the AFA? How does AFA interwork with their business?
Well, I get that question all the time, and it all boils down to, a return on investment, ROI. And we talk about, and I tell everybody, if you're not going to get engaged, don't spend your money, don't become a member, because you're not going to get anything out of it. I tell everyone that if you're going to invest, dive all the way in, get on a committee, get engaged with a program, something that we've got going, something that you are passionate about, that will just drive us to higher standards and higher levels of professionalism in our industry. We're very fortunate that our board of directors has chosen that a first-year member can join at 50% off that first year. And our goal is to make sure that we do the work, support the member, and they won't have a question as to whether or not they want to join the second year or third year or in the future. And, we've been very fortunate. I've even gone as far as personally telling somebody that, if you pay your dues, you get engaged, and you don't get a return on your investment, I personally, Tony Thornton, will write you a check for your dues, because that's how adamant and how I think that we will be able to prove to them that we're here and we're going to be here. But a new member gets a member savings program is one of the biggest things. And, of course, every fence contractor deals with a comprehensive insurance issue. And we've got members that are saving tremendous money on insurance savings through the comprehensive package, Wyatt and Andy Sturgio. We have 30 other programs that offer discounted benefits, uniforms, office supplies, you name it. There's all kind of collections, payroll processing, you name it. A lot of them may already be engaged, but yet if they sign up through AFA, they may pick up another 10 or 15%, savings on top of that. all of our new members, all members get a discount to Fence Tech, AFA University, and all the other opportunities. But the one thing that I tell everybody about this industry is I wished I could bottle networking. I mean,
yes, yeah.
Think of it, Joe. I mean, you and I've had conversations, and we've talked about fence projects, and I talked to 100 plus members, over a couple of months, and they all share the same issues, same problems. It's not any magic rocket science thing out there. But the networking, in my opinion, is something that if I could bottle and sell, we'd have more members than we could possibly put on paper.
But you're right. I want to speak to your point about you get in what you get out of it, what you put into it. From personal experience, we were members of AFA for quite a while, but we weren't active members. We didn't really attend Fence Tech that often, and we didn't go to chapter meetings. And I'd ask my dad, and when I was young, I was like, "What is this AFA? Like, why are we a part of it?" And like, well, it's just it's an industry organization. It's important to belong to the industry organization. It's like, okay, but why? He's like, well, it's because that's what we've always done,
Yeah.
And that was kind of our limited experience until I started going to some of the chapter meetings, and I started going to Fence Tech and interfacing with other AFA members there, and of course getting into Facebook groups and chatting with guys there.
Absolutely.
And my return skyrocketed. Both personally and professionally, and that, like you said, the member savings programs alone, depending on how you use and what you use inside that program, you could save your annual dues in that program alone.
Easy.
And then the rest of it's cake.
Yeah.
But you're right in that the networking, I value the networking really highly, especially our local meetings, the regional club meetings, that sort of thing. We had one, oh gosh, it was maybe a month and a half ago, the Midwest chapter meeting.
Yes.
And I got to meet guys that I'd only interfaced with on Facebook or through text and phone calls and that sort of thing. And it brings up just a whole nother like real level to the relationship and the interaction to be able to sit for a couple nights, around a fire and just chat about fence stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're right in that we all face similar dilemmas, and I see that, and I'm sure you see it so much more in that everyone thinks that their dilemmas are individual to them. Like they're specific, like, oh, you guys got it so easy. I've got rocks here. I dig in rocks. And then you watch guys pour in. They're like, oh, you think you've got rocks? You should see my rocks. And,
That's right.
And that's the thing. Or, I've got, picky customers or something. Everyone has that thing. They're like, oh, if you think you've got it bad, listen to this thing I deal with. And then 10 guys step up and go, oh, I've got that worse, and let me tell you about it.
Right. And they tell you how to solve it.
That's it. That's absolutely it. Is here's how I solve for that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually applicable to everyone.
Absolutely.
But it's incredible to be able to network. So that would be kind of my piece of advice is for members that aren't active in their, in the regional chapters, absolutely get involved.
Our board of directors has decided is in 2021, and hopefully and pray that these numbers continue to tick down. We're going to do a tremendous amount of what we call on the road training in 2021, where we're going to be traveling to Northern Ohio, Waverly, Nebraska, down into Florida. We're going to be teaching some of these schools on the road, which will allow what I always call, the locals to come close and save a lot of money. So we feel like we got a good plan put together. We had to pivot from what we normally do, but that's the new term around here is the pivot. And, we just had to look at things a little bit different, but we're still going to be bringing and delivering a lot of content, a lot of support and education and certifications to our industry here, in 2021. The American Fence Association developed what we call Fence Contractor Business School. Some of you have actually sat through it, but this is our business training book, and it's very, very thick. And it talks about all the aspects of what you need to understand about. I follow these fence professional pages all the time, and always, how do I market? How do I sell? How do I estimate? What do I do for insurance, and what's the legal requirements? All of those pieces are outlined in this Fence Contractor Business School. And from time to time, you're going to get a tremendous amount of input. Again, our fence industry is not very opinionated to tell you that, you're doing it the wrong way. You need to try it this way. But in reality, you've got to find your own niche. You've got to find your own way, but understanding that the business aspect is the most important piece of keeping your doors open, long term. End of story. Okay. And you've got to have fun doing it. Okay. If you're getting up every morning, you're not enjoying what you're doing, you might want to go change professions because you're not going to be here long term. Or if you do, it's probably going to kill you. But, some of the pieces that I think is most important, Joe, is the accounting and the business structure. We got to know our accounting. We got to know our money's coming in, our money's going out, what's happening there. We got to know our safety management and OSHA compliance, especially if you're going to do commercial. That in itself will get so many people in trouble because they don't know what these requirements are. But when it comes to estimating, I see these Facebook pages all the time. Well, I'm buying it for this and I'm putting this much on it and I'm selling it for that. What are you selling it for? Well, first of all, guys, please don't do that on a social media page because you're crossing some antitrust guidelines that's going to get you in trouble sooner or later. Okay. Yep. You've got to figure out your costs. You've got to figure out your overhead. You've got to figure out what money you've got to make to be successful and quit asking others what they're selling it for because they're in a whole different market. They're going to have a whole different level of overhead. And in my opinion, that's some of the biggest mistakes that our young professionals make is trying to go out and mimic what others are doing when they're not ready to do that.
Yeah, I agree, Tony. On that point, even in the same market, the prices will vary contractor to contractor because, we have 3 or 4 large competitors here that are our size or larger, and they're all bidding fence at their rates. It costs them, each one of them, a different amount of money. It could be more, it could be less than us just to operate the business. Mm-hmm. And it seems like everyone has different pricing structures. So I might pay a little bit different than they pay for materials depending on where I buy them and what quantities.
That's true.
So, but you're right. You see that question so often is, well, how much do you guys charge to build 6-foot privacy fence?
Yeah.
Well, there are 100 questions that go into that before we even talk about the legal ramifications of answering that question.
That's true.
Because if I answer that question, now both of us are in trouble.
That's true.
Because at that point, we've entered into a conversation and both sides are guilty. There's not one side that's guilty in that conversation. So absolutely.
Yep.
The way Bob Vila put it when I was a kid is if you're not a professional, hire a professional. And that's what we preach as contractors.
Yeah.
Right? That we are the fencing professionals.
Yeah.
But how many guys also try to do their own taxes? And they ask other people in the Facebook group or they ask people in the Facebook group, hey, what would you do in this contract? They ask the Facebook lawyers out there.
Yeah.
Legal advice. No, you've got to surround yourself with a team of professionals.
Yes.
And you're right. The accountant is absolutely important because if you can't read a profit and loss and balance sheet well, and I'll be honest, I am decently proficient at balance sheet and profit and loss, but I'm nowhere near as proficient as my accountant. And I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because my accountant probably can't build a great fence.
That's true.
We each have our own niches.
This is true.
But I think you're right. I think putting a team around you is absolutely important. First step.
And Joe, I would like to plug for anybody that's interested that Fence Contractor Business School, as you and I talked before the presentation here, we're going to be doing a lot of training on the road this next year. But in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, I think it's April, look at my calendar, April 12th week, we're actually going to be hosting that Fence Contractor Business School here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. So if anybody's interested, we haven't put it on the website or anything yet, but if you want to get your business basics, to be able to run an efficient company, please reach out to me and we'll keep you up to date on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and it's probably a good segue into AFA, how AFA helps contractors with education and certification. There's a lot of guys out there that are great craftsmen, and they'll tell everyone about it. Believe me, I do. You should.
Yeah.
But but how do you know? Right? Because we've also met the the installers that are the best thing since sliced bread at installing fence, and then come to find out after a few weeks of them working on your crew, they might not be.
Exactly.
They might have oversold themselves.
Yeah.
So let's talk about certifications for a minute.
Okay.
What certifications does the AFA offer for fencing contractors?
Okay, there's 2 distinct things that everybody needs to understand. The American Fence Association does not certify. Okay.
Okay.
The American Fence Association supports education through our schools. Okay. So AFA with experts in the industry. We put together the curriculum, we develop the school, we do the training, and then an organization called Accreditation Certification Institute, better known as ACI, they are the third-party entity that basically sets you in front of an exam, and at the end of that exam, you can become certified if you pass a certain threshold, okay?
Okay.
Now, we could self-certify, but that's really not, I mean, self-certifying yourself is like saying I'm the best one, right? So now if you put this product, this curriculum in front of a certifying body such as ACI, they evaluate, wow, you guys have really done a good job in the curriculum. You've done a good job in the training. And now we're going to build you a test for that and be able to test these individuals on their knowledge or product knowledge. Then that way they can get a check in the box to become a certified whatever. And of course, our fence contractor business school, you can set through ACI for what we call certified fence contractor. You'll have to know your trades, which is your core and your disciplines, and you will have to know the business aspect of it. That testing exam is actually patterned after the California business licensing exam, so it's pretty stringent. So certified fence contractor. And then certified fence professional, which has been around a long time, which now is certified through ACI, that's basically you understanding what the ASTM, the Gate Bible as I call it, or the Fence Bible as I call it, about knowing what the ASTM standards are and how to properly make them a part of your residential or commercial fence. And then we have the Certified Gate Automation Design School, which you can become a certified gate automation designer. We have the Certified Gate Automation Technician School, which you can become certified in. And we're going to release later this year, which I think is going to be one of our most popular ones, is a certified operations manager school. It'll be a 3 to 5 day school, and then you will be able to set for certification at the end of that. That curriculum was being developed prior to pandemic. We're back on task middle of December, and we're going to roll that out right after Fence Tech and start delivering that on the road this next year. So I think that's going to be a huge thing too. But what we see from consumers, architects, and engineers is they're all begging for certifications, okay? I tell the story that, specifiers will put in there all the right products, chain link, wood, whatever it is. But then there's a caveat there that says you must be in business for 2 years or have done a project similar to this in your career. Well, I could be the worst contractor in the county and be in business for 2 years. So what we're seeing architects and specifiers asking for, Joe, is give me a certification that I can start putting in here. We're seeing the CAGOI, which you will soon start seeing the CGAD, the CGAT, and you're also going to see the certified fence contractor request being in most of your bid projects here in the future. Now, that's a long road to hoe for us as an organization, but that's what we're working on. That's what we're here for, is to make sure that the consumer's protected and the right people are doing the work with the right products. And that's our goal, is protection.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tony, I commend you guys for taking on such a monumental task. I mean, it has to be such a huge undertaking, but I think you guys have the goal in mind of, leaving a better industry behind.
Exactly.
Right. Leaving an industry that is now viewed as a professional industry. I think we all go through this in that, there's a thought that the fencing industry as a whole isn't a profession, it's like a glorified handyman to some people, which is unfortunate because these are guys that have dedicated their whole lives to learning to be the best craftsmen they can be at this trade, and so I think what you guys are doing, obviously it's multifaceted, but I think it's great for the fencing contractor to be able to say, no, I'm a professional. I hold professional designations that show to you, the customer, that I have entered into this much, ongoing education. I have exhibited, my competence at all, whatever the designation is at these required, designations. I've done the work and I have the knowledge to do this as a profession, not just as someone that happens to do it.
Absolutely. One of the biggest gotchas that I see or I hear from time to time is, that we're not recognized as professions, or professionals. And it just really aggravates me in the fact, and I asked this question to whoever asked me that, what's the difference between us being a professional and a tradesman in the fencing industry than the electricians or the plumbers? Plumber can't put my fence up. You don't want me out there doing the plumbing. So, these certifications will slowly but surely gain more, clout, more, credibility as we move forward. And it's all about the numbers. So, anybody that's interested in getting those certifications, we certainly would love to have that conversation. But there's no reason why we can't be looked upon as a professional tradesman and a professional industry like others, because those other two have licensing in order to be in business.
Right.
And I see that possibly happening in the next 10 years for our industry. Personally, I can. Okay. Yeah. And I think everybody else can too, if the right lobbying, the right licensing, the right protocols, and all those things that goes into that called advocacy and governmental affairs, committees and discussions that occur, we'll get there. And that's what our goal is.
Yeah. And by the AFA kind of taking the first step in that, by creating the professional designations, you guys are kind of setting, you're setting the bar as to what the professional designation should be. When I talk to plumbers and electricians, sometimes, their licensing boards, they don't necessarily agree with some, this way or that way, but there was no one that took that first step to set that standard, right? That a certified fence professional should be able to do these things. Yes. And so then someone just came up with it.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's not done, if you don't do it, someone will do it for you, sort of thing. So I think the AFA has taken a great first step in that, saying, who knows the fencing industry better than us, than ourselves. And so, but I think you're right. I think licensing, I think it's coming. I think it will come. And unfortunately, it's because you see, and maybe not this, not the only reason, but so this contract or this craftsman that started a business and was in business 2 or 3 years and then realized that, they're not a great business person and then leaves. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't just leave. Unfortunately, sometimes, and we had this in our local market a little while back, is, they'll start taking on more and more deposits because they're behind on bills. And so, but then all of a sudden they have more work than they can put in. And so then they just collect deposits for a while and then disappear.
Yeah.
They just up and move and they're gone and no one's ever heard from them. But you have 20, 30, 40 customers that have each put down deposits of $4,000 or $5,000 who are just out of luck, unless they can find this person and try to bring them back, through the court system, they're just gone. And I think that's happening enough. I think that's going to be one of, the straws that breaks the camel's back that leads to licensing and regulation.
I'll tell you another piece that most people don't think about, Joe, is the fact that as a homeowner, okay, you probably have a fence in your backyard, okay? If it wasn't installed properly by the standards and you got a tornado or high winds or some type of weather came through and blew this fence down, and then your insurance inspector comes out there and says, well, that post is only 12 inches in the ground. I know the standard says 30-inch deep, 10-inch diameter, then I'm not going to insure this. So we're seeing more and more insurance groups starting to get on the bandwagon, so to speak, to say, hey, how can we protect our coverage, okay, and get rid of some of these, unethical practices that's going on. So I think with that momentum, we're going to see a good change as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And guys, for those of you watching, I don't view licensing and regulation as a negative. There's some folks out there that do. There's some folks out there that view it as a very negative thing. And I think it's accomplishing or is trying to accomplish a similar, benefit that the AFA is already trying to undertake, is that it's bringing everyone up to a standard playing field.
Correct.
And it's requiring education. It's requiring, proficiency exams and that sort of thing. I don't view it as a negative, but I think everyone will be 2, 3, 4 steps ahead when that day comes if they are already accredited through or, by using the AFA's education.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about a little bit of the differences between certified fence professional and certified fence contractor. So those two things sound similar, but they're pretty different.
Again, certified fence professional is understanding what's in this ASTM standards book. Okay, y'all can tell I'm sitting at my desk. Okay, fence materials and products. The 14th edition is coming out in January, February of next year. We've already got a big supply ordered, so y'all reach out to us and we'll get this taken care of. But what certified fence professional tells the industry is that I know what these standards are, and I'll follow them, and I'm going to do what's required to make sure that the products are installed properly through these standards. That's what certified fence professional is. A lot of commercial contractors use this designation as a way to show architects, engineers, and others that we know that there's our standards and ASTM, requirements out there, and we know them. Certified fence professional, I would say, kind of takes that whole big picture. Okay, whether you do residential or commercial or a little bit of both, you have to know the trades, the course, how to dig a hole, how to mix cement, how to lay out a job, how to do all these basics, including all 5 disciplines. I need to know wood, chain link iron. And then you got to pass the test for the business piece. So the certified fence contractor is basically what you will probably see as a designation in architects and engineers specifications that says, here's the right product. You got to be a certified fence contractor to go do this job. That's what ultimately is going to be seen in the future. If we have if we obtain that goal that we hope to obtain. So that's the differences right there.
Tony, in closing, have I missed anything? Is there anything? This is kind of your opportunity to talk about something I might have missed.
I think we hit all the hot topics. Joe, I appreciate you and other, industry professionals getting these platforms out, in front of our profession and even, consumers, and the opportunity to educate them on who the American Fence Association is and what we hopefully will be achieving in the future, and we've got an open door policy here. Whether you're a member or a non-member, do not hesitate reaching out to me. Y'all watch my videos, and I share my cell number. And I'm going to do it again right now.
You bet.
If you need me, you call me on cell number 972-533-3658. Or if you'd like to send me an email at any time, it's Tony, Tony, at AmericanFenceAssociation.com.
So, Tony, I appreciate you. I appreciate all your time. I look forward to meeting you in person there at Fence Tech.
Absolutely.
I encourage, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to use Tony as a resource. He's one of these guys that will absolutely help you however he can.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, for now, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors.